Yeah. Ever since I was little, I always felt like I was in like this movie that I created.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I can do anything I want. And I have a lot, really. Oh, ooh, this feels good. Sorry. I just have to feel that. I've been doing a lot of that lately. Thank goodness I've gotten to understand your way of explaining this, because
we're happy that you're selfish enough to own your good feeling. Because there are a lot of people that want to, they just feel guilty when they feel good.
Right. Or they like, you're brave. And it's like, no, I just did what I thought I should.
Yeah.
And like that impulse is, that inner being is so delicious to have and to recognize.
So you're saying to us that you've gotten pretty good at knowing what influence you're under when the impulse comes.
Absolutely.
And did you get good by it being right every time, or did you have experience with impulses under the influence and not under the influence so that you were able to eventually figure it out?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
I just recently, I feel like I've been taken away. I don't want to argue for my limitations like you guys say, but I gotta ask, right, while I'm here. I have it written down a little bit, sorry, just in case I got flustered. Yeah, I never really felt indecisive. I always kind of knew what I wanted and went for it. And
but stop there for just a moment, because we want to say something about that. When momentum happens, the decisions feel strong, whether you're under the influence of something not helpful or under the influence of something really helpful. Decisiveness is not about the inner beingness or the lack of inner being. It's about the momentum of the subject, because there are a lot of people really feeling conviction about things that their inner being is no part of. They're getting it from the mob.
Right. Right. Ooh, yeah, that's good.
And so feeling conviction about something still doesn't give you feeling wonderful. Feeling love, now that's conviction. Feeling hate, that's conviction too.
Not what I want to go for. Okay, so I just figured out my real dream without thinking about other people thinking about me differently or whatever. I did stand up for the first time, and I felt high as a kite. I've never felt like that in my life. And it was like, this is what I want to do. Like, yeah, I do want to be on stage. I do love to make people laugh. Like, this is the most incredible feeling ever. And I was okay with actually saying it out loud now. And that was something that I didn't want to do.
We want to just say this to you softly, because it's not a big deal, but it's a deal. You're too aware of them.
Absolutely.
And that'll get in your way a little bit. Now, you can't separate yourself from the reaction that people are having to you. Just don't let it be primary. Let your reaction to yourself be what really matters, and they'll come along. Yeah.
I believe that. Because when I'm in alignment and I feel good, it's just those simple little, like you call nuggets.
Yeah.
Where when I don't have the resistance.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, I got a parking spot. Of course I got like shot up to the front of the line. Like, things always work out for me. But when I'm in that state of unknowing, I guess it's hard for me to.
But the thing is, this is what we were getting at earlier. It's a good conversation we're having today. If there's knowingness about alignment, that's all the knowingness you need. In not being under the influence of that, then in your insecurity, then you got to fill in all the details of what you know. But when you're under the influence of source, then those details don't matter. Jerry and Esther spent a few summers in Montana, and Jerry liked to fly fish, and he was really good at it. He would say, there'll be a trout under that rock over there, and he could put his hook anywhere in the stream, and he would put his hook right there, and he just knew where they were, and he knew how to get them. And he liked the streams that were flowing, but that they were shallow and lots of rocks, and he would run up and down the rocks on the stream and never get his feet wet. And Esther tried to learn that from him and always got her feet wet, because he just knew. He'd been at it long enough that he just knew that he would have the impulse. It's like a basketball player who's really under the influence of source. Even though he has skills and he's done a lot of practicing so that he's come to believe in himself, there are so many more components of what others are thinking and what others are doing and what others are intending in the moment that someone who's tuned in, tapped in, turned on has access to. You not only know what your intentions are, you know what their intentions are, and therefore you know what the morphing of your intention is given their intention. And so you can just become masterful about being in the right place at the right time. It's not just your hand-eye coordination. It's not just understanding the physics of what's going on in this atmosphere and what it takes to put the ball in that hoop. It's that all of the dynamics that are happening even in the crowd could potentially be affecting your vibration. And if you've got control of your vibration, then in the moment you don't need to worry about anything. Just follow the impulse, because your inner being is factoring in all of the dynamics that are important to you. Don't you like knowing that? But instead, imagine someone for a moment not tuned in, tapped in, turned on, who is feeling insecure, maybe really new at this, and in their insecurity they don't have any of those benefits. So now they're relying totally upon how many times they've practiced that free shot, and they're relying on the statistics. Well, I make this 51% of the time, so the odds are pretty good that I'm going to hit it this time. They're not in the dynamic flow of the universal forces, and they don't have access to anything that anybody else is doing. They're just out there on the raw and ragged edge, feeling insecure and performing like an insecure person performs. The analogy that we like to give first, the silly one, is so you're going to vacuum your beautiful new living room carpet, but you've decided to skip a step and not bother to plug the vacuum cleaner in. So you go through all the motions and you make lots of tracks on the rug, but you don't really get the results that you might because you didn't plug your vacuum cleaner in. That's what we mean. Just get tuned in and all insecurity goes away. And in any moment, if you feel insecure, what does that mean? You're not tuned in. If you feel angry, what does that mean? You're not tuned in. If you feel mean or disrespectful, or if you feel criticized, if you feel blameful or guilty, you can get really good at knowing whether you're under the influence of source or otherwise. And then.
Yeah. So that is all I mean, I feel like that's all I need, but is there anything that I'm doing that can kind of, keep me away from that? Sure, not being in alignment.
There's just one thing, and we said it to you already. You're too aware of them. You're too aware of the others, too aware of what their response to you is. What kind of a performer are you? Were you describing?
Well, I want to be a comedian.
So you are?
Yes, I am.
Consider this. At your best, you know what's going on with them, and their inner beings all know what's going on with them. And your inner being knows what's going on with you and knows what's going on with their inner beings, so therefore knows what's going on with them. And so you can approach this in a couple of ways. You could find some things that are funny, and when you say it, most everybody laughs, and that could be your routine, and you could do just fine with that. You could do some of that, and you could follow the impulse in the moment. You could receive an impulse and say it. You could receive an impulse that your inner being delivers to you that resonates so completely with everyone. And the thing is, Esther always wondered about this, because we have said for years that when you get tuned in, tapped in, turned on, that the universe will surprise and delight you. And she understood how it could delight her, but she didn't understand how it could surprise her. She thought, if I'm a deliberate creator and I'm intending these things, which goes to your first question, I'm intending these things, and so why would I be surprised when the very thing that I've planned for happens? And we say because there's so much more depth and richness and texture that you're planning for, but you couldn't possibly conceive of all of the configurations and all of the components and all of the intricacies of the way they all weave together. That's what that timing is about. When you're tuned in and your audience or some particular person in the audience is at some particular place, and you receive that impulse and you deliver that in that way so that it's meaningful, because you're aware not only of your timing but of theirs too. The very best things in your life are spontaneous. They are spontaneous, and you can't really be spontaneous from a place of insecurity. From a place of insecurity, you're writing everything down and you're putting it on the floor and you're trying to remember it. But from a place of spontaneity, you know you've got this, and you know they're out there, and you know that it's a dynamic experience.
That's when I killed it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. But because I was so in tune, and I just felt great. And then there were moments when I had that bit of insecurity and I felt like I bombed it. And I was like, well, that was temporary.
We like you knowing the difference. And bombing only puts something else in your vortex.
Good stuff in there. Yeah. Heck yeah. Thank you. I love you.
Really good. Really good. Really good.